What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Deconstructing Hip Hop, the show where geek meets ghetto, aka the show where we break down classic hip hop beats using modern day music production tools. Now, today's song, Black Moon's Who Got the Props, is one of my favorite Black Moon songs. It's produced by the Beatminerz. For those of you that don't know, that's Evil D and Mr. Walt, who were brothers. I didn't know that until I started to do some of the research here for this show. But the Beatminerz were responsible for a lot of classics back in the day, and yes, basically Black Moon and smif-n-wessun. I mean, they did How Many MCs, they did the I Gotcha Open remix, the Buck 'Em Down remix with smif-n-wessun, they did Bucktown, Soundboy Burial. Now, the thing about the Beatminerz is that they had this gritty sound to it. I don't know what equipment they use in producing Who Got the Props, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say it was an SB-1200. Again, that was a standard back in the day, and it has that gritty, grimy sound that you hear on Who Got the Props. Now, when I first heard this song, I think it was probably at my cousin Ivis's house back in '92. He was trying to get into the DJ game back then. He didn't have his 1200s yet, and he had this one record that came in a black sleeve with the yellow label on it called Who Got the Props by a group that to me was then unknown called Black Moon. And he just kept playing it over and over again, and the song pretty much grew on me. Now, again, I don't know what equipment the Beatminerz used, but I ended up using Machine, and I tried my best to kind of emulate that gritty sound that the original equipment got, but you just can't do it with this modern day equipment. And even though it can come pretty close, you just know when something was produced originally on an SB-1200 and MPC 3000 or 2000 or 60, and when something was produced in a bit of software like Reason or Ableton, or in this case, Machine. Nonetheless, I love Machine. I'm going to keep using it, mostly because it's easier and it's great for handling these sample-based tracks from the 90s, but I like having buttons. I like being able to tweak things and not having to click my mouse a lot. So, way too much talking. Let's get at this. All right, first and foremost, let's get to talking about these samples over here. Now, most of the beat is pretty much just 2 bars taken from Ronnie Law's Tidal Wave. Now, this sample was also used in an Usher song. I believe it was Every Time I Think of You. I think that was might have been his first single, but I'm not much of an R&B head, so I probably am wrong. Anyways, have a listen to the sample. Let me forward to the part of the song where the sample comes from. Right here. And that's pretty much it. Now, the beat itself came from Skull Snap's It's a New Day. Now, this sample is basically a hip-hop standard. It's been used time and time again, and it probably will keep on being used. Songs that jump off the top of my head that used it were Gang Starr's Take It Personal, The Far Side's Passing Me By, and Lords of the Underground's Funky Child. Big shout to K-Def on that one. So just have a listen to this sample. It's going to sound familiar to you if you're a hip-hop head. Now, when the Beatminerz did use this, I'm not sure if they just let the sample play straight through or if they sampled the individual elements. What I mean is that they took the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat, assigned them to individual buttons on whatever machine they used, probably an SB-1200, and played it that way. Now, what I did, let me show you what I did over here, was rather than taking the kick, the snare, and the hi-hat, giving them each their own button on machine and letting it play that way, I actually allowed the sample to play straight through. Now, this isn't the sample as it was on the record. Over here on this last part, this is the same hi-hat from over here. All right? Now, let me tell you why that's the case. In the original sample, you would have another hi-hat sound here, and over here, there was a kick. Now the drum arrangement in Who Got the Props doesn't have a kick over here. So what I did was just copy this part over here and pasted it over here. Now what we end up with is what sounds like this. Now, it really does not sound like the type of sound for the drums that we have on Who Got the Props, and I ended up having to use a couple of effects to get that sound. Now, the thing is, though, Machine will never sound exactly like the original equipment that was used to produce the song. The reason is, even though Machine has way more power, those old bits of equipment had just a unique, distinct sound to them. Probably was the chips up inside of them, or maybe the jacks on the back. I don't know what it was, but nothing nowadays can sound exactly the same as the stuff from way back when. Even if the manufacturers like Native Instruments or even Akai themselves say, hey, at the push of this button, you can make your current piece of equipment sound like an MPC 2000 or an SB 1200. Not gonna happen. You can't emulate those things through software. Now, sorry about that. Let me go to the Ronnie Law sample and show you what I did there. Now, it's pretty straightforward. I just chopped off the extra audio at the beginning and extra audio at the end, and this is what we're left with. And Who Got the Props is pretty much that. All it is this first bar looped 3 times, and then this second bar played on every 4th bar. Now let me go to Machine and show you what I did. First, let's talk about the sample. Now what I ended up doing with the sample over here was I put the first bar on its own pad and let Machine play it like it would any other piece of audio. One other thing that I forgot to mention is that I had to pitch it up by 1 note so that it could match Who Got the Props, and so that it would be on tempo with 100 beats per minute. So here's that sample again, pitched up. Now, the second bar, this part, the thing was, if I would have let Machine play it straight through like I did for the first bar, there would have been a noticeable gap in the sample whenever the beat looped back again. What I ended up doing, I cheated a little bit. I used Contact. Now, Contact is a very powerful software sampler, and what I used it for was to stretch the second bar so that there wouldn't be a gap in it when the beat looped over. Now, I know what a lot of you guys are saying. The Beatminerz did not have any time stretching capabilities back in the day. And you know what? You'd be 100% right. The thing is, though, they were probably sampling off of a turntable. Now, when you sample off of a turntable, you can just adjust the tempo of a given sample just by putting your finger on the frickin' record. And that's a huge advantage because it slows it down. So if, let's just say, the first bar fits perfectly to your 100 beats per minute, but the second bar doesn't, you just rest your finger on the record and it'll slow it down just enough so that it'll sound good. It does affect the pitch a little bit, but sometimes that's not noticeable. Now, in my previous video for the Hard Knock Life, I mentioned that the 45 King probably did just that. And if you listen to the sample on that song as it's played on the original Jay-Z song, you notice that the pitch varies a little bit. That's the kind of variation that you get from somebody just resting their finger on the turntable, just so that the tempo of the record is is corrected to match whatever beat you're doing. But anyways, I'm really starting to nerd out over here. What I also did, aside from stretch it out, was I had to put some EQing on it because apparently stretching out the time messed with some of the EQing on it, so I boosted up the low frequencies, and I also just boosted the volume overall so that the second bar is going to sound comparable to the first one. Let me show you what it's like played out together. My timing sucks, but you get the idea. Now, what I also did before I talk about the drums, I actually ran them through Machine's low-fi filter. Now what this lo-fi filter does, it tries to emulate the sound that you would get out of an old piece of equipment, do something called bit crushing. I'm not going to explain what that is. The short version is it just makes your sample sound crappier. All right. Modern equipment is very strong, very powerful. So whenever you sample something, it's a very high quality. You didn't have that high quality back in the day, so I got to try to emulate it. I bit crushed it to 12 bits, and I put the signal down to 27%. So that means just 27% of the bit crush signal is getting through. But all in all, we get a sound that's somewhat similar to what we had on Who Got the Props. The drums over here, though, are a whole other story. Those two went through another bit crushing filter, and I EQ'd it a little bit. Actually, I just boosted the low frequencies of this bit crushed signal. But before the signal even gets to get bit crushed, what I did was I applied another EQ to it. I raised the lower frequencies. The mid-high frequencies, I should say the second mid frequencies, I lowered a bit. And the high frequencies, the treble frequencies, I raised them quite a bit. So what we end up with is a drum kit that sounds like this. Well, forgive my sloppy playing, but once again, this isn't exactly for show. It's just to kind of demonstrate the sound that we have now. The thing is, though, this talks about some of the limitations of the equipment that we have nowadays. As awesome as it is, you're just not going to get the kind of sound that you would have gotten on those original bits of gear. I mean, that's why if you're going to try to buy an SB1200 on eBay now, you're going to pay maybe even more than it cost when it was first released. I think right now they're going for about $2,500, and if memory serves me correctly, a stock SB1200 was about $2,000 back in the day. So you're paying $500 now, extra now, for a piece of equipment that's essentially 20 years old. And I'm telling you, that's how prized the unique sound characteristics of these old bits of gear are. So anyways, I'm starting to nerd out a little bit. I did the sequencing. The intro is just pretty much 8 bars of the sample playing, and then at the very end, the beat drops, and then we just have Who Got the Props as you know it. Have a listen. And that's pretty much it. I know I didn't get it exactly, and that's pretty much what I say every time I play my mix downs for you, but this was especially the case for this one. I just could not get the drums to sound the same, but I think they're just gritty and grimy enough that they go well with the sample. But if you do know how how the Beatminerz did the drums, just let me know. Shoot me a comment, shoot me an email, a tweet. I don't care. A carrier pigeon. Just let me know how if you got that info. But either ways, if you really want to see more videos, please like the Facebook page at facebook.com/deconstructinghiphop, and whatever new videos I post will show up in your timeline. And a lot of times I will post videos to the YouTube page, not that I produce, but that are maybe about the music that I'm covering or something that's relevant to just hip-hop. Classic hip-hop in particular. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/deconstructinghiphop, and there the new videos once again will show up in your subscription feed as they're produced. On Twitter, if you want to make a request, follow me up on Twitter at twitter.com/RogerGill79. Now that is my personal Twitter account. You will get some of the Deconstructing Hip Hop stuff, but you'll also get some other stuff. I'm a therapist by trade, so you will get some mental health information, especially when I post up some info on my other blog. But if you just want the show stuff, you can follow the show's Twitter feed at twitter.com/deconhiphop. And there, as new episodes come out, or maybe some other hip hop related stuff comes out, you'll just hear from that. Excuse me, you'll actually pick that up on that feed. Anyways, it's kind of late. I need to get to work tomorrow and I need to get up bright and early. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one and peace.